I know what you're probably thinking. Wait a second. How much is Maniac branching out from his typical stuff? He's been doing an ongoing series about movies of all things on a video game related channel. And now he's reviewing a Renaissance Fair? What is going on here? Well, actually, this Renaissance Fair is very much in common with video games. And I don't think it's a despair for me to talk about it. Now, welcome all of you guys for joining me for this video. For those of you who don't know what this video is about, this is a review of the Midsummer Fantasy Renaissance Fair. This is the brochure right here. It was going on through the end of June and beginning of July in my home state of Connecticut. It is the first Renaissance Fair that I've attended personally as a spectator in person in probably going on about 13 years. The last ones I went to were probably when I was still out living in California. I haven't been to one in a long time. Now, again, you're probably saying, why a Renaissance Fair? Why a Renaissance review? What would this have to do with gaming? And I'm going to answer that question really excitedly. The Renaissance Fair was a fantasy Renaissance Fair. I know that there are a lot of Renaissance Fair out there that really pride themselves on historical accuracy. They want to be as accurate to the period as possible. This was not like that at all. This was a Renaissance Fair that was inspired by Final Fantasy and Dungeons and Dragons and Tolkien and things like that. There were more video game jokes being thrown out throughout the various sketches than there were claims about the peasants and the autocracy and things like that. It worked. I mean, I've never heard of a Renaissance Fair, although I'm sure they happen. I've never heard of a Renaissance Fair that would do something like this. The first time I had heard about this Renaissance Fair was during, actually, my local St. Patrick's Day parade. My home typically does the St. Patrick's Day parade. They had a bunch of locals and aldermen and things like that marching in the parade, which they typically do. But among several of the groups that were marching were members of this organization. And I was like, wait, you're telling me that we have a local Renaissance Fair? Princess Angel has been wanting to go to a Renaissance Fair probably for the past year and a half. And one was going to be happening, and when I found out that one was going to be happening in June and July, I was like, we gotta go. We gotta go check this out. And we went, and we were not disappointed. The whole Renaissance Fair was based upon a series of sketches and events. So even though they had several individuals, of which I will be talking about later, that did their own special comedy bits or musical bits or demonstrations and things like that, as well as tons of food vendors, which I will again talk about later. And a bunch of food vendors and a bunch of wares vendors. Again, I'll talk about all those later. There was an overarching story to the whole theme of the show, in that it became clear that before you even first walked into the door, before the event started for the day, this was a different kind of Renaissance Fair. A blind seer came up to, in front of the ticket stands before they started selling tickets for the day. This was probably around 10:45, 10:30 or so. They started selling tickets at 11. And started talking about a wizard who had this gauntlet of power that he used while the wizard was defeated, but the gauntlet remained. They found the gauntlet, and now they basically just want to get rid of it because of how dangerous it is. And all of the individuals, either from this world or the spirit world and things like that, have their own claims on it. And basically, they just want to get rid of it and basically go, hi, bye, 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 go take it to the ethereal plane or something like that. There were goblins and wizards and mortal men, warriors and things like that, all involved in this overarching story. I got a huge kick out of the fact that they stayed true to character. Throughout the whole event, basically, the characters would walk around, even when the sketches were not happening, and they still stayed in character, and they were doing things even off script, basically. Like, there was no setting there, but the guys would stay in character at all times, which was awesome. I thought that was great. I only saw some of the sketches, first half of them. I think we had to leave around 7, but from what we saw, I don't want to spoil what the story was, but there was a cool twist at the turning point of the story, which is where, unfortunately, the last part I saw. I'll go more into the sketches probably when I start talking about all the different things that were going on. A couple of shout outs that I absolutely have to give for this particular event. Basically, there were featured performers and things like that that they had during the event that was also scheduled to perform for that day. I went with a pretty large group, probably around 8 or so people. It was myself, Gypsy Jen went, Princess Angel went, a couple of Gypsy Jen's friends and Princess Angel's friends attended with us. Mostly it was women. I think it was me and one other guy went. But we all seemed to enjoy it. The overarching theme or agreement amongst everybody that the favorite show that they had, no disparity to some of the other ones that I'm going to be mentioning, was Daniel Greenwolf. Daniel Greenwolf was their Irish magician and fire manipulator. And I say fire manipulator, we're talking fire breathing, fire jump, this guy was doing everything with fire. And I guess my friends are a bunch of pyromaniacs because they absolutely love Daniel Greenwolf's show. He did some magic work. He switched up his tricks throughout. He performed at least 3 times that day, if I remember correctly. He definitely did. We saw him twice. He definitely did a different trick for the last one, but he did do several tricks over the course of the day. He was really funny. So not only was the guy competent with his tricks, competent with his fire breathing, he was funny. And I think that's another reason why everybody liked him, because Daniel, and trust me, by the end of the day, the word was going around, you have to see Daniel, you have to see Daniel, you have to see Daniel. And basically the audience for him, while it was large when it first started, was getting bigger and bigger every time he went to perform. So the word was certainly getting around through the fair, you have to see Daniel at some point. And good for Daniel. Other guys I wanted to talk about were the 3 Pint Shy guys who were only performing at a particular time. These guys were another Celtic inspired, but this was a musical group. They were only doing 1 or 2 performances that day. I think they only did 1, and they were only doing it on that particular day we went. So I said, I think we should go see them because this is the only time they're going to be performing. This is the only place they're going to be performing. I think they're really important. And we all went to go see them. They did a whole bunch of music. They were, it was funny. They were, they did a song that was improv. Yeah, if you like yourself some Irish drinking music, you would like 3 Pint Shy. You really would. And so that's all really I have to say about them. I enjoyed their music quite a bit, as did the rest of the group. There was another group that I absolutely have to mention. So there were some people, unfortunately, I didn't get a chance to see. Granny Gruesome, Gleeful Tales. She was more intended for little children, basically, although I heard some really good things about her. She was dressed awesomely. She had, she was basically like their storyteller, basically for little kids. So if you had a little kid and you wanted them to sit in on something enjoyable, definitely you would have taken her to go see Granny Gruesome. Props to her. Unfortunately, we didn't get lucky enough to see her, but I did hear very good things about her from several of the people, including Daniel. But my personal favorite of the whole event, not including the story arc and stuff like that, was the Questless Company. Now, I remember I had not heard about the Questless Company before I started looking up this particular event. And I said to myself, and I said to my group, we have to go see the Questless Company. There's like one thing. This is I looked up their Facebook page and I looked up their website and they're like, oh, we're a comedy group that tells jokes and has some battles. We're basically heavily D&D inspired. And we're basically a D&D group on the search for a quest. We don't even have a quest. We're looking for a quest. And I thought, I like hearing stories about tabletop RPGs. I know the Spoonie one likes making, is pretty good at making them enjoyable. It'd be funny to see, and I love parody. I mean, I absolutely love parody of this kind of stuff. I have to admit, I'm ashamed to admit, I've seen parody of Shakespeare, but I've never seen parody of D&D like this. I've never seen a LARP parody before. So the Questless Company really interested me. I only was lucky enough to catch 1 showing of their particular of their event. They were performing at least 3 times, and I think that their last show was an all-new show, which unfortunately I missed. I'm very sorry about that. That was my favorite of the event because, as you know, I'm a gamer. I have to, and their jokes were very heavily. The Questless Company is a group of 5. I really don't want to spoil what their you know, their particular quest was, or what the comedy sketch was. But I'll give a quick rundown. It was a group of 5, 2 women and 3 men. One of the women was named Lady Peach. One of the women was named Lady Daisy. There was a Scot with a claymore sword who called himself the Scotch Guard. There was a thief called Klepto who was dressed like, basically, I kind of thought he was inspired by the Assassin's Creed. He looked very much like an Assassin's Creed guy. In fact, they actually made a direct reference to that. But when I showed it to somebody, they said he looked like a rogue. Okay. Some people, when I showed him his outfit, very much looked like a rogue. So, okay. And, of course, there was a paladin named Sir John. So, they did combat. Their jokes were funny. They didn't pull their punches on their swords. Well, like their choreography was very well rehearsed. Their blades were moving quickly and things like that. And there were a couple of groups that were performing. I don't want to name any names, but that were doing demonstrations and stuff. But they were pulling their sword. You could clearly see that they were pulling their swords. The Questless Company did not. They were at it. In the rain they performed. And they were awesome. Props to them. If you get any chance, I know they do other performances. If you have any chance to see either Daniel Greenwolf, The Questless Company, 3 Pints Shy, my advice would be to go see them. But I'm getting a bit ahead of myself. Obviously, the third-party guys that were coming in fact, they even had belly dancers and stuff like that. I can't forget about the traditional belly dancers. They had belly dancers. Everybody was faced. They had all kinds of different good, awesome stuff. But I was really drawn into the story events. I can't remember being in any type of event off the top of my head since I was a kid on vacation in I think Lake George or something like that. That really had an overarching story for the particular event. If you were to go to a major event, then basically you'd see this particular sideshow or this particular stage show or something along those lines. That's what you would see. But they had an ongoing stage show throughout the entire event, which tied together, and it was very well done. They had effects, the actors were very good, the costumes were cool, everybody stayed in character, and again, I'm sorry I missed the ending, I really do. Again, I know I feel like I'm only just touching the surface, but again, I'm really concerned about spoilers. I know the event is done for the year, which is why I intentionally waited on this review, but I didn't want to spoil the event for anybody that might want to go see it. I'm not the kind of reviewer that would just stand up and say, this happened, or this happened, or this happened, basically preventing you from, if you want to go see it, I would say go see it. The merchants and the food. I've had some friends that attended King Richard's Fair. I can't comment about King Richard's Fair. If you've gone, great. If you enjoyed it, great. But I've never been, so I really can't comment on it. But some of the people that were in my group had attended King Richard's Fair. And particularly about the food and the cost of tickets, as well as merchants' goods, if you were buying stuff for them. They particularly had 3 comments. 1, the tickets were cheaper for the event than it was to go to a King Richard's Fair. 2, the merchants were cheaper than the merchants at King Richard's Fair, and there was still a pretty damn good selection of everything you could possibly imagine, which I'll talk about after I talk about the food. And 3, the food selection was outstandingly wide. They had everything you could possibly imagine. I ended up having barbecue. They had a barbecue pit. And they were selling barbecue sandwiches, pulled pork, that sort of stuff, basically. That's what I ended up having. They had other stuff. They had traditional turkey legs. They had a traditional vendor that you would typically find at a Renaissance Fair. I remember seeing this type of vendor the last time I was at a Renaissance Fair in California. They were selling turkey legs, clam chowder, bread bowls full of soup. They did have a vegetarian soup. Because one of my friends is vegetarian, and they did have vegetarian options. They had a lot of vegetarian options. They had a pie maker selling meat pies, veggie pies, and quiche. Awesome! This is great. They had smoothie makers making traditional ice smoothies, basically fruit juices plus crushed ice in pineapples, Literally, and you could have like a smoothie. For desserts, if you wanted a dessert, they had a baked goods area which offered brownies that included alcohol if you wanted. And Princess Angel indulged on an alcoholic brownie, which she loved quite a bit. Now, Princess Angel is obviously of drinking age, as am I. I don't drink, but she occasionally does. So if you are of drinking age and you wish to imbibe, that is your choice, good sir, or good madam. They also had Turkish delights, and I mean all the Turkish delights you could possibly imagine. Turkish desserts, hummus, Turkish coffee. I had the Turkish coffee. I've had traditional Turkish coffee before. It is exactly like that. I don't know where this guy came from, but he was very much in traditional Turkish goods. I've never seen a Renaissance fair that offered Turkish goods before, but I mean, I love hummus. I love falafels. I love Turkish delight. Great, great job. That was awesome. As for the vendors, every kind of vendor imaginable. They had clothing vendors. They were selling kilts. My girlfriend bought me a see-through pirate shirt, which she loved seeing me in, go figure. All kinds of different vendors. There was a swordsmith. There were a blacksmith. There were people selling pearls, pearl goods, jewelry makers, and things like that. There was guys selling traditional Oriental fans and umbrellas, painted umbrellas. That you would, Princess Angel ended up buying herself a traditional Oriental umbrella because she thought how pretty it was. A friend, the other male of the group, for $85 bought a freaking 3-foot-long broadsword that had it was made of steel. There was no question this thing was steel. It was edged. It had little blades on the hilt area, towards the hilt area. Like you could saw. It looked like you could chop down a freaking tree with this sword. It looked like it was a sword made for a 6-foot-tall man, and it had a pewter handle and hilt with little fake jewels in it and things like that. It was an amazing looking sword. If I saw that sword online, I would have imagined that sword would have gone for $300, $350 easy. He paid $85 for it at the beginning of the show. That was outrageous and amazing. And he loves that sword. He's happy with it. He's still happy with it. That sword is awesome. He loves it. So I got to mention that in particular. They did have a pickle cart going through, and there is one story that I would like to tell. My friends were all dressed up, but of course I have no dress-up clothing or anything like that for a Renaissance fair. So I did have a very, very cheap-looking crown, and I wore that. And everyone thought, because of my beard and I don't know, whatever, they said I looked like a certain recognizable mascot. And, but they certainly all called me a king for the whole day, so that was awesome. I was the one guy they were calling a king. That was great. I loved it. But anyway, so I'm very sorry, ladies, but I have to tell this story. I bought a pickle from the pickle vendor. It was a great pickle. And I offered my pickle to 4 ladies that were having lunch with me. The town drunk sees me with my crown on, offering my pickle to 4 ladies, and he says to me these exact words, "Sir, you are truly a king. Thank you for that, sir." It was a great event. $16 ticket for the show. Awesome people performing. Awesome story. There were freaking video games. I don't want to spoil, but again, for video game references, like I said, this was very D&D inspired, especially the Questless Company, but there were video game jokes being thrown out left and right. One of the sketches was basically a parody of the first joke ever told by Red vs. Blue. You ever wonder why we're here joke? 2 guards are standing in front of this gauntlet, and they're basically doing the ever wonder why we're here bit. It was awesome. At one point, one of the guards is put under a spell, like a dementia spell or something like that, and screams, "Gotta catch them all," and runs off, basically. And they make mention of that as something involving the future or kids or things like that. amazing. Obviously, Questless Company did many video game references. My favorite being the Assassin's Creed joke. They did reference the fact that there were no female assassins in Assassin's Creed Unity. There was a scene where, no, basically, I'll say a little bit about what happened in the Questless Company. The gag was that they all wanted to basically find a quest, so they split up, and nobody wanted, basically none of the guys wanted to join the girls, basically, because that's fun, you know, whatever. And so Klepto wanted to basically go by himself. He wanted to basically do the quest by himself, and the reason why he said that he couldn't join them, or they couldn't join him, was because rendering the female model of the thief is more, you know, of the assassin is more difficult. So I thought that was great. I really thought that was great. Fun show. Let me tell you, none of my friends were disappointed by the event. Really excited. I hope they do it next year. I really do. If you get a chance to go see it next year, if they're having it, I mean, this year they had it in Warsaw, Ansionia, Warsaw Park, Ansionia, Connecticut. That's where it was. It was $16 per ticket per day to get in. We went for a day. We enjoyed every second of it. So, if you're looking for a local Renaissance Fantasy Fair, and you're looking for something that may be more true to the spirit, but not true, even not true to accuracy, and you're a huge gamer like I am and really want to see gaming-related stuff, I totally recommend this event. It was so much fun. Till next time, guys, I got more reviews coming up, more videos on the way. This is Maniac with GamingStats.net. Over and out.